Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? Can I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we are drawing today are our 5 of Wands in its reversal, in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its upright. Here's the wild thing right now. It feels very Cancer season in here. It feels very much like we're already in the transition point between Gemini and Cancer. But I think the reason that we're feeling that right now to a large degree is the fact that we had a very big transit of energy moving into Cancer all at once. We had Jupiter and Mercury just pushing into Cancer at the same time. So I know that and I want to describe this. I am not someone, when I read into the energy, you have to understand, I don't look at the astrology like a switch. It's not like we march in and go, okay, now the switch has been hit. We've moved into something. I often start to see the transition point between one astrological sign and the other. And one of the things that we keep on seeing, or the messages that have been coming through right now, particularly in relationality to Mercury and Jupiter, both moving into Cancer, the house of Cancer, almost directly after one another, like one and then the other, like boom, boom. And this was right after that Sag full moon. I think that there's something really beautiful about this, because you have to remember that a lot of the conversations that we've been seeing that have been coming up recently have to do with sublime authenticity, right? The ability of moving towards one's sublime self. Now, that can sometimes feel very difficult, but the beauty that, and I wrote a whole article on this when we were experiencing that Sag full moon. You can find it over on my Substack. But the integration of self, right? What do we mean when we talk about the integration of self? It's the ability to identify and recognize all the parts of the self, right? The ability to identify all of the facets that make the whole, or the whole shape of one's own being. Now, what happens when we're not in a healthy space? When we're not in a healthy space egoically or even spiritually, we compartmentalize, right? This is a lot of that work that we saw in terms of moving things into like little boxes, right? Or working into that space of trying to energetically avoid things. But when we're working on the integration of the self, right, we identify and recognize like the whole composition, because it's not requiring one to be perfect, right? And this is what I like so much about the fact that we did have and I feel like this is a continuation on the conversation that we had relating to the work of Scorpio, like the work, as it were, about coming into the Aquarian energy. Like we talked a lot about the fact of being able to heal from the false illusion of perfection, right? When we hold ourselves to untenable ideals of the self, it doesn't allow any celebration of the self. It doesn't allow the ability to be able to do any work, right? Because if you're constantly worried about being perfect and you find parts of the self that aren't perfect, what do? You push them into the subconscious, right? You try to you do that work to try to be like, oh, you know what I mean? You try to do that, and then you start feeling like you're not in a place of being energetically integrated, because it's that feeling of the parts of the self that you're not confronting, right? And this is what we talk about. This is what I kind of like about the Pluto in retrograde energy that we're experiencing right now. Because it's that ability of being able to, when we embrace the parts of ourselves that are hard to look at, we find that integration of self, right? And what does that feel like? It feels uncomfortable, right? It's like, this is what we talk about when we talk about healing intimacy wounds. It can sometimes feel very difficult. But the ability to have a difficult conversation, this is how we effectively heal. This is also why we see that there's a lot of Cancerian energy that's kind of entered the chat, if you will, sooner, pre-gaming, if you will, us coming into Cancer season, because Jupiter and Mercury both coming into Cancer. What is the conversation that we have in that, right? The journey does not need to be about trying to take the ego and throwing it as far away from yourself as possible. You try to throw the ego away from yourself, it's going to come back. It's going to come back bigger. It's going to be like, you come back here because it's trying to energetically protect the self. But when we're in a space, right? When we look at ourselves in a space where we understand that we're not energetically perfect, and this is what I love. I love to describe the journey of building into healthy ego. This is all we see in Cancer energy, because I want you to think of the nature of a crab, okay? Think about the shell that a crab occupies. The shell of a crab is different than we see of a mollusk, right? We see a mollusk that, they just kind of crawl into anything. But a crab shell is it's completely interconnected with the thing that is within it, right? It is the shape and the form solidified. It is the unified construct of self that matches the form of the thing within it. And this is what we identify is the architecture of building into a good alignment of self and spirit, right? Because when we're in a space where the external matches the internal, it allows us the context of building into healthy relationship. Because when we move deeper into knowing a person, or we move deeper into knowing the counterpart, and we discover that what's reflective without, it's pretty much the same all the way through, right? It's pretty much the same all the way through. It feels like a celebration, right? It just feels like it's the divine joy of discovering the more of the other person, right? There's more of them. It's just more of the same within. It's that beautiful flourishing that we experience. And we can do that work on the self, even outside a partnership, right? But this is often why we experience those moments. And this is why you often see in like a healthy spiritual journey, there's a fracturing of the self. Because what happens when the ego gets too distant from the spiritual self? It feels like it can't contain what's within it. And what happens when something cannot contain what's within it? Breakthrough or breakdown, right? So this is why we should always be attenuated and working on the energetic ego. That doesn't mean that we try to get rid of it entirely. Like never, and often you'll notice those who feel like they have no ego, like that in itself is a very egoic thing to say. But the ability of understanding and recognizing it, this is how we heal it. And this is why we see that for a lot of the energy right now coming into union, this is why there was trepidation there. Because some of the energy right now in separation is healing from situations where they felt that there were fractures in a manifestation, much like we see, because much like the manifestation is very much like the egoic self. The healthy manifestation is not one that we just articulate upon. It's one that we embody. It's one that we move towards. It's one that we move in harmony with, right? We synchronize ourselves with our manifestations. So this is a lot of that same energetic journey that we're articulating here. And the reason that we see some of these partnerships that are coming into formation, they're not even changing that much, but they're solidifying. They're solidifying in relationality. And why are they solidifying? Because it is the divine delight in discovering that the energy in terms of what they appear, right? The self that is expressed upon meeting is very much the same as one is experiencing as one moves deeper into connection. These were I told you, there's a lot of these magician partnerships right now that are transiting into union. And that ability too, the recognition of being able to heal one another by being able to see one another with clarity. Some of the energy is releasing a lot of audacity as they move into union, because the audacity is the recognition of something they picked up about the self that is no longer true, but that they may have potentially had to articulate or imbibe about the self in order to remain in an unhealthy energetic connection. So that's why we see that for a lot of the energy It's like the audacity that is being released with a sigh, because it's the audacity that is expressed, but also fortifies the energetic connection, right? Now, this brings us to a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now. We've got here the Queen of Swords. Remember, I was saying before the podcast started that, Mars moving into Virgo, which happened recent, just within the last few hours, is very much like I associate that energy with Queen of Swords. Why do I associate Mars with Virgo in Queen of Swords energy? Mars in Leo is all Braveheart. It's all about the heart space. It's about leading with the heart. And the thing is, and this is a conversation that we see in the transition point between, and as my throat chakra starts clamping up, this is the transition point that we see between Mars in Virgo, Leo, moving into Mars in Virgo. Because Mars in Leo talks about the bravery it takes to lead from the heart space, right? It is all about that heart opening. It's about what it takes to be able to allow compassion to articulate upon one's own call of action. But Mars in Virgo, I like Mars in Virgo because as we go into the conversation between Mars in Leo and Mars in Virgo has a lot to do, and it's a continuation of the conversation that we had about standards and boundaries, right? Because Mars in Leo is all about standards, right? The ability to feel proud, right? The ability to articulate, to say something from the chest. But often when someone sees standards as weakness, they try to push against them, right? It's the lack of courtesy that we have as it relates to the expression of our vulnerability. So when another does not meet our standard becomes a boundary. It becomes a place that we have to stand firm on. And so this is the irony that often happens with standards and boundaries. It's almost the fact that we all wish that we didn't have to have them. We don't hold our standards and wave them around because we want to. We do so because there are those that do not feel that they hold them for us. So that's why I keep on seeing that a lot of that work, I keep on hearing the word self-evident is coming through, because often, and this is what is so frustrating, is when we're in healthy spaces and we articulate standards like boundaries, and someone says that our boundary is self-evident, we recognize that we are in the company of those who hold our standards, right? Which is the moment that we often discover the fact that we're carrying trauma, because trauma is often formed in spaces where another person tries to punish you for having standards in the first place, right? So this is why I see that there's a lot of this energy here, particularly with that Mars in Virgo, which is the conversation that says, do not confuse weakness for vulnerability. Right? The energy of the warrior talks about the fact of all of the strength it takes to continue to be vulnerable even after one has undergone hardship. That is I keep on hearing, that is the forging of the self, right? And never are we more forged than situation or circumstances that have tried to make us hard, that have tried to make us lose our standards, that have tried to iron them away from us. But instead, we continue to come back towards ourselves, right? So we see even now that there's a lot of that energy that feels fortified. And this is bringing us to a lot of the energy that's coming into divine union right now, because the discovery of that is effectively the energetic basis of the relationship for a lot of those chariot partnerships. Because you'll recall that for a lot of the chariot partnerships that are moving deeper into divine union right now, the stability that they've created is hard fought, right? It's not something that they don't take it for granted. This brings us to a lot of the energy right now, deep within divine union, clarification between our fourth and fifth card of our 5-card spread. There's our 6 of Swords in its upright and our Hangman in its reversal. When we allow trauma to change us, we become the energetic force of trauma. When we allow trauma to change us, we become the energetic force of trauma. But when we allow trauma to move towards a space of allowing it to like I keep on seeing the ability, like remember, moving towards vulnerability, experiencing something, and then not letting it change you, to be informed by it, right? To learn from it, but to stay within the shape of the self. This is a lot of the architecture that we see that allows for the ability to heal, because, and that is often the space that we honor ourselves because we don't let the trauma destroy our standards, right? And this is often what's difficult, because often those who are in traumatic spaces, they have to learn to build their standards again, right? You have to come into the construction of doing so. Now, we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now, deep within divine union, this is why I see that there's a lot of energy that is working towards the transformation of manifestation goals, right? There's a lot of that. I keep on hearing, like, there's a lot of the energy right now deep within divine union that is doing that work as it relates to being able to articulate or amplify or see something in a bigger way, right? Like Mars and Jupiter entering Cancer together is often a conversation on the microcosm to the macrocosm, right? The bigger picture, the expansion of the manifestation goal. So that ability of doing so, right? The ability to, I keep on hearing, speaking upon something that is universally important is what I'm getting. Right? The ability to understand. And this is the conversation we were also having. A healthy manifestation goal is one that is mutually shared, right? We talk a lot about that. And this is why we see for a lot of these partnerships, the ability to adapt and to change a manifestation to accommodate the expression of the self that feels like it continues to change in partnership. This is a lot of the energy that we identify feels the maturation of relationship, because the healthy manifestation is one that adapts with us. That's why when we're a child, we have small dreams. We get bigger, the dreams get bigger. It's a lot of that working in terms of the accordance point. So what we effectively identify and recognize that's happening in these spaces is there's a lot of that work that we're seeing that is allowing for the adaptability of the manifestation goal. But even in that space, it's the adaptability that doesn't feel like one is moving away from the manifestation entirely, but it's almost the song that you hear when you move towards a healthy manifestation that articulates and says, I was thinking too small, right? It is that beautiful flourishing of the expansion point. Continuing to get clarification between our Five of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its upright. We've got here our Star card. Our Star card in its upright. Now, this is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. Masculine, I feel like there's something kind of, how do I describe this? There's something really beautiful in relationality to masculine right now. And I feel like it speaks directly into the idea of what it means. I keep on hearing to protect is to support, is what I keep on hearing. To protect is to support, which is why do I keep on hearing for masculine? Again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender. To protect is to support. Because for masculine, you have to understand, I just keep on seeing that there's a lot of masculine energy that is working on healing. And I keep on feeling there's a lot of energy of masculine that is healing from the fact that when someone tells you that, when someone tells you the solution to something is not to feel it, they don't give you the ability to get stronger within it, is all I keep on hearing. When someone tells you the solution is not to feel it, they're denying you the ability to get stronger within it. And so that's why I keep on seeing for a lot of masculine right now, this feels like, I can feel like there's a lot of healing that comes through that feels heartbreaking. It almost feels energetically unfair, because that's what I meant about a lot of the masculine energy right now on this journey that feels like they have to reshape their perspective of masculinity even as they move on their path work. Right? It's like it's requiring them to kind of forge their own path, as it were. Because for a lot of the energy doing so, right? And this is why I feel like a lot of masculine, like almost like, again, releasing a lot of frustration, right? When you articulate the fact that you're having difficulty with emotions and another person says, yeah, you just need to learn how to turn them off, there's no strength there, because disassociation is not strengthening, it's compartmentalizing, right? And when you put something away, then it gets bigger and bigger, and then it overwhelms you, and then boom, right? What happens? Breakdowns, or you destroy the things that you care about. So that's why we see that for a lot of the masculine, working through this is, I keep on hearing, expression, not suppression. Expression, not suppression, right? Like learning, teaching themselves the tools to do the work in learning how to express, but in a way that does not energetically overwhelm. And so that's why I keep on hearing, for a lot of the masculine going through this right now, you're never too late for your own journey. You're never too late for your own journey. So I feel like that's a lot of the masculine that's like also like working on releasing any feelings of regret or frustration that they may have, that they haven't come upon some of that work sooner. I'm going to say it again. You're never late for your own journey. For feminine, I feel like a lot of this is also the feminine that's releasing a lot of audacity, particularly and especially because what did we say? Trauma will punish you for having standards, right? The difficulty with trauma is trauma teaches us the wrong lessons. If you try to have standards in a place where trauma rules, right? Trauma is going to say that the standards are the energetic issue. So this is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy working into that space, right? This is what we see with this star card here in combination with our 5 of Wands and our Ace of Pentacles, because this is the feminine that says, never does the feminine feel more held, right? When the feminine who desires not to have to go around articulating standards that should be self-evident has the ability not to worry about holding the standards because others hold them for them. Because this is what we do with those we care about. This is how we energetically protect. There's a lot of inner child healing that's happening right now. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Pentacles in combination with our Queen of Swords and its upright. Can I get one card to clarify? Boom, I like it. We've got here our 6 of Wands in its upright. And here's the thing about it, and I got to tell you right now, I do see some separations that are happening right now. I'm just going to be completely clear. You know, I don't sugarcoat things, okay? I do see separations that are happening right now. I'm going to explain to you the nature of some of the separations that I'm seeing right now. The nature of some of the separations that I'm seeing right now, I keep on hearing, it is the separations that are occurring right now. And I'm not surprised to see this on the fact that we have Mercury and Jupiter moving into Cancer, but we also have Gemini season with Uranus about to move into Gemini as we depart from Gemini, is the difference, again, between boo and do. Okay? You guys have probably heard me talking about this, the issue between boo and do. And why are we hearing the issue between boo and do? Because we talked about that with a lot of the conversations that we've been having during this Gemini season is the recognition point of the difference between fickleness and pragmatism. What is the difference? What is the difference between fickleness and pragmatism? It is very common. It is a good thing to be pragmatic on the journey towards a manifestation. A healthy manifestation is one where we see possibilities. We arrive to the possibilities before us as we move, as we embody what it takes to move towards a manifestation. So it is very positive to usually be on a healthy manifestation route and be like, I was thinking about this all wrong. The adaptability that is required to be able to move towards a particular manifestation. Fickleness, okay? Fickleness is being too adaptable. Fickleness is being articulated as being too adaptable and often changing for the sake of change, at which we say change is not a manifestation goal. Change is a quality of the way energy moves. But often those who do not have the endurance or who have an aversion to building into consistency will try to articulate that change is a manifestation goal. But this is the thing. Change is not a manifestation goal. And those who are typically fickle will articulate the fact that they don't like something instead of articulating what they would prefer. right? So we see even now that this could be some of those moments that are potentially leading to energetic separation points, right? I don't like this doesn't fix anything. Constantly being in a space of articulating what's wrong does not move something into the direction of what is right. This is why we talk a lot about the fact that our emotions, right, they don't hold the map. And we don't burden each other with the emotions like they're a problem to be solved. We do the inner work in identifying what it is that needs to be amended to be able to have a productive conversation on it. So I can see that there may be some rending that's happening right now and some energy falling into separation as it relates to what is and is not a productive conversation, which is the difference between an energy of critique, right? The ability to bring something positive that allows the capacity to move something in a positive direction versus that articulation of everything. Like, again, when you look for problems, problems are all you see. But when you're in a productive space, problems are just solutions waiting to happen. This brings us to continuing between our Queen of Swords and our Six of Swords in its upright. We've got here our Four of Swords. So there's a lot of sword energy today, but I like the swords that we're seeing. We've got a lot of wands, we've got a lot of swords, which is saying to me, and I'm just going to continue to say this right now, if you're feeling frustration, make sure you're moving it into productive spaces, okay? Because everything we have is a gift. And when we articulate frustration in ways that fortify us, it allows us to be able to move something forward effectively. It gives us that context by which we can change something. But this is why we also see that, and I keep on hearing this, there's a lot of energy right now this is also, I keep on hearing, this is also why comparing relationships will sometimes destroy relationships, right? Because it is the understanding point that every energetic connection is unique. And why is every energetic connection point unique? Because the ability to understand that combination is one that allows for I keep on hearing the intrigue of healthy relationship is one that it's different for everyone, right? We often talk about, and we talk a lot about alignment here, right? We talk a lot about the fact, and this is why sometimes with relationship, you can't say, oh, just do this and everything will work out. Healthy relationship is about the alignment as it relates to what one considers healthy, right? Again, and we talked a lot about this. If someone is in a space where they need a lot of communication and another person doesn't want a lot of communication, like this can create those distortions in vibration, right? And often that modality, this is why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy, working through something, the ability to heal karma is identifying the circumstances or situations that cause wounds in the first place. Like that ability of doing so, the recognition, and I keep on hearing the message of, again, that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean we have to, you have to understand, forgiveness, this is why we say you can forgive, but you don't necessarily need to bring someone back into the space where they used to formerly exist within. Right? The understanding of the nature of a relationship helps us build the correct energetic distance from the self that we feel is energetically safe. And our ability to judge that distance is what I'm seeing here. This is the context of feeling safe in relationship, because when we're in a space where we identify what we mean to another, we hold that space sacredly in whatever space it exists within, right? We don't compare it. We don't start scrutinizing it. And this is often why I also see that this could be relationships that are potentially working into the context of something falling into separation, because that ability of over scrutiny, right? And this is why often when we start comparing our relationship to others, we're effectively projecting, right? Because it's the space of identifying, not appreciating what something is, but trying to make it something that it isn't. So that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, moving into these energies in separation, I feel like a lot of the energy in separation right now, we're moving into temperance. So these are, and what do we have with temperance relationships? These are relationships that honor the sanctity of what it is we create between one another. And that ability of doing so, it feels, I keep on hearing, it feels supportive, because for a lot of the energy in that space, and this is why I'm not surprised to see this occurring with Cancer season. There's something to be notated about the journey of the relationship that allows the context of having the internal world, right? It's not the space that you have to, like, I keep on hearing, you can have an authentic relationship and still have an internal world, right? It's a lot of that type of energy I feel like some of these new relationships are moving into. But I keep on seeing that, like, something about that feels very beautiful, because I feel like there's something very peaceful in that. I keep on hearing the energy say, I just feel very comfortable with you, right? It's that comfortability that one has in the ability of just being one's authentic self and not feeling like one must perform the act of the self. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Swords in combination with our Hangman in its upright. There's that Seven of Swords, and we had the Seven of Swords up yesterday. There's a lot of cards that are similar. A lot of cards coming out that we had yesterday. You can see yesterday's full spread over on the Substack. Now, here's the thing about it, and this is what I meant in relationality to some of that audacity being relieved, because it's more of the conversation of the appreciation and understanding the context by which trauma occurs. So when we're in healthy relationship, right? I keep on hearing, when we're in healthy relationship, it almost sometimes feels absurd to articulate upon a standard, right? Like, this is often, remember how I said, like, some of that magician energy that's moving deeper into divine union right now, like, in the space of saying, why did you feel you needed to say that to me? Obviously, like, that is the identification and articulation point in recognizing what it feels like when we enter the presence of someone who holds our standards as we would our own, right? It is the sanctity by which we identify a standard, and how another person experiences that feels like the energy that recognizes one another, because it is the unified approach in relationality to looking at something and almost saying to one another, what did you experience that made you feel that you had to articulate that? You know, there's a lot of intimate conversations I see that are coming up right now. There's a lot of that work, right? And I keep on hearing, like, the trauma that tells on itself. And this is sometimes that, like, what's so difficult, because that ability, like the courtesy that we extend by means or by way of understanding the depth of something that we've experienced, this is why often the ability to articulate standards feels like a reclamation, because often the hard part about having standards is trauma will try to punish you for having them. Right? Trauma will, if you're in, and this is why we talk about some things can only be healed via proximity, because if you're in a space where no one has standards and you're the only person holding standards, you're going to look like the odd person out, right? Like, you're going to be the ugly duckling. You're going to be the one that looks like they're not necessarily energetically aligned. But that's why we see that being able to do that work, right? And this is what I meant with that Mars in Virgo. Mars in Virgo is a lot about the reclamation of standards, insofar as going through something and working towards the space of saying the identification point of doing so. And this is why I want to say there's also some, like, Chiron messages coming through. This is often talking about the fact that some wounds we don't heal from. I know that's difficult, but this is what we've been talking about when it comes to trauma. Trauma doesn't go away. There's no context by which trauma leaves us. Trauma is the pain that sticks. It's coming along for the ride, right? And yesterday we had a beautiful card that came up when we were talking about trauma in combination with the Seven of Swords, right? Because we see here that with the Seven of Swords, like this is often what it feels like when we're leaving like difficult situations, like we're carrying all that pain in our hands. But then we saw the energy move into the Fool card, right? And the moving into the Fool card is beautiful because it's the articulation of, again, the moment where we understand that the trauma is carried with us, right? But it's behind us, right? It's how we carry it that allows us to be able to heal it, right? And that's the thing about it. Often there's a misconception of waiting for the trauma to go away. And what's happening for a lot of the energy that's entering divine union right now, it's the observation that they feel very much the same. It's not like you find the healthy partnership and then poof, all the trauma goes away. And often that's the thing about it. You continue to do the work to heal from it by continuing to feel the same triggers, right? The same memories that come back to the surface. But it's how you choose to address them, right? Welcome to that Pluto retrograde. Right? The ability or the recognition point in being able to kind of face something that may have felt like it debilitated you before, but to do so with the strength of self in order to be able to work towards something in a way that feels like it empowers instead of working in a way that feels like it creates that anxiety or creates that doubt or creates that fear. Continuing to get clarification between our Star card in combination with our Six of Swords in its upright. Queen of Pentacles. There's a lot of feminine energy right now on the table. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. And I think that this is really beautiful as it relates to the harmony between masculine and feminine right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to, because what we're effectively seeing here is, and the reason, and I think it's like very beautiful. Masculine is on the table here, but masculine is very much in the hangman position. Now, we like to see the hangman position because, and we talk a lot about this in the tarot church classes, the beautiful thing we see with the hangman is, what is around the head of the hangman? There's a halo there. There's the enlightenment point. Because this is what happens for a lot of, this is what the masculine continues to work towards. This is what it feels like for masculine that has found the ability to feel the breadth of emotions, right? To feel everything that one feels, but not be reactive to it. I talk a lot about this when we study this card in the tarot church classes. Does this person look like they're struggling? No, they look like they're dancing. They look at energetic peace, because this is what we talk about in relationality to non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean the quality and characteristic of being able to turn the emotions off. That's easy. The ability to feel the full breadth of experience, but not to feel led by the emotions, right? Because when we lead with the emotions, we break things. The emotions don't hold the map. But when masculine is able to observe the emotions, feels the ability to be able to sit in the seat of the self and feel the wave of the emotions, the masculine is then able to still have the clarity of insight, the clarity of the sight of the self to guide the direction of what it is that they're feeling. So this is why we see that for a lot of the energy right now, this is the masculine building into the context of being able to be, I keep on hearing, very present to the feminine, right? I feel like this is a lot of masculine, like working on practicing energetic active listening, if you will. It's like a lot of masculine, like working on active listening, because the ability to actively listen is the ability to be present and to be able to observe, I keep on hearing and what happens, look at this, what happens when the masculine is able to observe and be energetically active, like the active listening. What is the gift that the masculine receives? the full facets, the full facets of the feminine, being able to see feminine in all of their aspects, right? And so this is also the feminine that's doing that work. And the thing about, I keep on hearing, for a lot of the feminine right now, this is a lot of that energetic integration point in relationality to not feeling like they need to fit into the contortion of another person's experience of them, right? This is a lot of the feminine energy that is working out like the space that says like what, like, you know, like the space that often feminine feels that desire to fit in, right? Often feminine feels that pressure to fit into a mold, right? And so for a lot of the feminine doing that work, coming into that space where one is able to articulate the expansion of the self in all of its facets, this is a lot of that. This is a lot of that energy that we saw with Mercury and Jupiter moving into Cancer, which is working on, right? And I keep on seeing for masculine, this is for both masculine and feminine energy. This is both inner child healing, because this is the beauty of the relationship. Like, this is a lot of the energy moving deeper into divine union. This is the masculine that says, I feel energetically safe in the embrace of the feminine, because this is the feminine that sees, that allows me, right, to be in the experience of having emotions, right? Does not punish me for having them, does not consider me weak for articulating them. But this is the masculine that says, when feminine holds me in a space that I can feel and express my emotions in healthy ways, I feel energetically blessed. And for feminine, this is the feminine that says, if this is the masculine that accepts the feminine in all of their facets, right? Isn't looking for a feminine just to serve them from the point of need, but is looking for the healthy, energetic counterpart that allows for that expansion point. Both that we see that this is feminine that feels like they flourish in that relationship, and masculine that feels like they can finally fall back into the embrace of someone that is caring for them emotionally, because they're being emotionally held. Now, continuing to get clarification between our Six of Wands in combination with our Four of Swords, we have here our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. Now, as you mentioned, like this is interesting too, because you will recall yesterday we had the Wheel of Fortune out as well. And yesterday the Wheel of Fortune was a little bit more to the side. It's back here now, and it's in its reversal, and just move deeper into the reading itself. And this is what this is a perfect identification point of what we're talking about with some of that shift of Mars into Virgo. And what does the shift of Mars into Virgo say to us, right? Often there are those who see vulnerability and assume it is weakness, right? But the thing is, when we are energetically empowered by the space or the position that we occupy, we don't see, like, it's the understanding that vulnerability is an energetic choice, right? The vulnerability that we give to others is a gift. And so that's why we see that, like, a lot of the messages that we experience with Mars in Virgo is talking about the preciousness of vulnerability, right? And that preciousness of vulnerability is one that we understand is not, I keep on hearing, it's not unconditional. Why is it not unconditional? Because your vulnerability is a gift, right? When we have, that's why when we build into relationships, they see sides of us that others do not see, because and it's not that we're completely different if we're in a healthy space, but the vulnerability by which we extend to another feels like a gift, because when we are giving gifts, it's because we are exceptional. It's because we excel. So the ability to excel in that vulnerability is one that is met in that space. So everything I keep on seeing that occurs in that modality is articulated and built upon the fact that it's not something that we don't give the same thing to everybody, right? And this is what I meant in relationality, some of this energy that is like a lot of the magician energy right now is transiting into union. And for a lot of the energy right now that is in separation, this is why I feel like a lot of that energy is moving into temperance right now. Because temperance, and we talked a lot about this with the card that appeared yesterday, and I talk about this in my tarot church classes. We see on that cup two cups that are the water's being moved between the cups, right? And what happens when we move water between the cups? This is often what we do in conversation, right? We are able, and you have to remember a time when we didn't have a way to purify water. When you couldn't purify water, you could move it between cups because that's how you could remove sediment from it. So that ability, when you think about it in that way, you can think about the fact that a healthy relationship is one that helps us sift the sediment from our cups, right? They help us go through the stuff that's within us that is probably off the mark, like something that's not necessarily like right for us. And they help us find that deeper truth, right? And this is why we have those energetically precious conversations, because it often feels like we're sorting through. You ever have a conversation where it feels like you're sorting through something, or you feel energetically relieved after you had it? And that's why those type of relationships are such that you can't have them with everybody. Often you have them with someone who holds a clear mirror to the self. So someone that you identify and recognize holds the same energetic standards as you yourself hold, right? Because when we feel in a space that we can be our vulnerable self, and we have the security in knowing someone will hold our standards as we do our own, we can have those clarifying conversations that help us sift through something that is supportive to the self, something that is true of the self, versus something that we may have picked up about the self that isn't necessarily healthy or supportive. This is what the trauma does, right? Because when we're in unhealthy spaces, it requires us to imbibe truths about the selves that are not best for us, right? So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of this energy that is working through, right? Like this is building into the preciousness of the self. And there's a lot of energetic discernment that is occurring in those spaces because, and this is why we talk about why we should never build into relationships without having clarity as it relates to manifestation goals. Because the ability of understanding what direction we're headed, this is often what can tear into the fabric of our experience, right? It's that there's never are we in more danger relationship wise than when we say the words, let's just see where this goes, because everybody has a manifestation goal. Let's just see where this goes is not indicative in the fact that there isn't a manifestation goal, but the ability to articulate upon the manifestation goal allows us to calibrate between what it is that we're identifying that we want to embody and what direction that we're moving in. Because often what happens, how do we create trauma? When we build an energetic connection with someone, and then we figure out we want very different things. But now you got that pesky energetic connection, and you got two energies pulling in very different ways. And that's what we would call a karmic connection. Right? It's the vibration of two forces trying to pull against each other, trying to pull each other onto path work, but they don't necessarily want to be on that path work. And that's why I keep on hearing that, like, the reason I see some energy right now moving into temperance as it relates to relationships is I keep on hearing this energy that says, come to me karmically correct or karmically not at all, which is saying state your business, be embodying your manifestations, be intentional with what it is that you articulate in order to avoid a situation where we build into an emotional bond only to figure out that we're going to be pulling each other in oppositional directions every step of the way. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union between our 4 of swords and its upright in combination with that 7 of swords and its upright, yeah, there's that 5 of pentacles. This is more of the work that we see that is happening in relationality to the embodiment of the point of these energies right now. These are some of those magician partnerships that are moving into divine union. And I keep on seeing it's a lot of that relief. I see this energy starting to move towards each other with much more rapidity now. Why? Because this is the energy that's almost apologizing for the delay, because that apologizing for the delay was the articulation of saying, I hope you'll forgive me, but I've experienced relationality or relationships where someone said that they desired something, and then lo and behold, that did not ring true in their person, right? Or they didn't embody the manifestation, which is the energy that says their words didn't match their action. It's easy to say that one wants something, but when one is talking about a manifestation, but you're not doing anything to move towards it, you're not moving in the direction of all the things you have to embody to do it, you're just wishing for things, right? And manifestations are wishes we walk towards. Continuing to get clarification between our Queen of Pentacles and our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. There's that temper. There it is. I knew they were going to come out. We got the Temperance card here. So that's like, that is the message that's amplifying for a lot of the energy in separation right now. Right? I keep on hearing the mantra for a lot of the energy in separation right now is manifestations are wishes we walk towards, which is why we don't look at each other and go, I wish there was something between us, right? And sometimes we'll have others do this. We'll have energies that comes up to us and goes, I wish there was something. I wish that something was different. And you just look at them and be like, but you're not doing anything to make it different. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a situation wherein you look towards another and just articulate the desire that something be different. A manifestation is a wish that you walk towards. It's something that you facilitate doing. It's something that you move in alignment with. So that's why I keep on hearing that for a lot of the energy right now, that ability of doing so, that recognition point, that fortification, this is what I keep on hearing. And this is what I keep on hearing for a lot of the energy in separation. Embodied manifestations. This is why they're coming into Temperance energy. Because embodied manifestations articulate that it's easy to say. It's easy to say that you want something. It's an entire different situation to move in accordance with it. And if you're not, like, again, if you say you want a healthy relationship, but you don't facilitate consistent communication, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, if you say you want a healthy relationship, but then you articulate that another person asking for things is needy, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's a lot of that space that understands that it's easy to articulate upon the things that we aspire about, but the ability to go into detail, to disassemble is what I keep on hearing. The words of what we say to understand what we really mean. I would not be surprised that energy right now is not just allowing one to rest on saying, yeah, I want a relationship. Be like, a relationship, everything's a relationship. I'm having a relationship with all of you right now. We're all in a relationship together. It's the nature of the relationship that is important to discern. And so I see that this is a lot of the energy of in separation that is going into Temperance, because it is the combination of force that says, please expound upon that. Like, walk me through it. Give me the details so I understand better and make sure that you mean the same thing that I mean in relationality to what it is that we're talking about. So this is why I keep on, and I got to tell you right now, I would not be surprised if there's some energy that's meeting and encountering someone and they're going, what do you mean by that? And they're going, bye-bye. They're going, bye-bye. Because and that's what I can see if someone's like scratching their head and being like, I want a relationship, and someone's saying, can you go into detail? And they're going, no, they're going, but what is a relationship? And this brings us into a lot of the energy that's coming into divine union, clarification between our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal and our Five of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify. There's that Four of Cups in its reversal. This is why here's the thing about it. I feel like there's some magician energy right now that's moving into divine union. They're saying like full stop. And why are they, but they're saying full stop in the best way possible, right? Because that's often how it feels in relationality to encountering, right? You will meet many on the journey to a manifestation that articulate the fact that they want the manifestation that you do. It's not about the articulation of a manifestation. A manifestation is not about what looks like the manifestation. It is what feels right. It is the embodied manifestation. And that is why we talk a lot about the fact that it's very important that when you're building into healthy manifestations, you don't get too particularly attached on an individual. Because if you want someone, the universe is going to say, you can have that person. You can have them. But I can't guarantee you it's going to feel the way you want it to feel. I can't guarantee you it's going to feel the way you want it to feel. You want that person, it's going to be conditional. This is what happens. It is the recognition, and this is a choice that we make, right? The recognition is, imagine a scenario situation where you can have anyone, right? You can have anyone you desire, but the conditions by which you have to enter that relationship may not feel like the manifestation that you aspire. It might feel something wholly, completely different. But this is why when we build into healthy relationship, we don't look towards what looks like our manifestation. We identify the embodied manifestation. Feels good is good. Looks right is right. The internalization of the point where something is not just something that feels like it looks like it on the surface level, but within the space of the self, it feels like one is moving in accordance to something that nourishes the self. And that's why I keep on hearing healthy relationship is good medicine, because it feeds you, it supports you, and that's a space where we're feeling energetically cared for. Unhealthy relationships are ones that make us feel like something is missing or contorts us into things that we don't desire and aspire to be or do. So that's why we see that for a lot of the energy right now, moving into divine union, this is the energy that is working. Like, I want you to see this. Like, this is the energy that's releasing the aggravation and frustration of a lot of things that may have felt like the energy that felt like they were moving towards something. But again, and this is what I meant about that space. Remember when I told you that there's a lot of energy that's coming into divine union right now that is healing and understanding the difference between critique and criticism? That when another person sees us in the modality where they feel like they just want us to fit a role in their life, right? They'll often start to criticize us and be like, you're not acting right. You're not acting the way my manifestation would act. You have to, like, it's like a lot of that, like that poking, right? The adjustment point in relationality to trying to like change someone in a way that they don't necessarily want to change. And that's why, again, we've been talking a lot about the fact that the lesson that's been coming through in Gemini season right now is don't come into relationship if you don't want to be changed. Don't come into relationship if you don't want to be changed. Change is the only name. Like, relationship is a ship. It changes you. It moves you. But when we're in unhealthy relationship, it feels like it contorts us. It feels like it bends us in ways that we don't desire to be bent. It feels like it breaks us. But when we're in healthy relationship, that same transformation occurs, but it moves us in accordance with our own higher self. It feels like it moves us closer to what it is that we aspire for. It is the ability of finding that the exceptional or the excellence of a relationship that sees us clearly and helps us aspire towards our highest forms. So that's why it's very important, right? This is why we don't go to relationship. You cannot say to me, you know what? A little relationship will fix me. A relationship will not fix you. Okay? You fix the more you work on the self, you are able to find a relationship that meets you at the level that you have healed yourself. This is the gift that we find. So that ability of continuing to do the work on the self, this is why I see this energy in separation. And why do we talk about the fact that even these readings can be seen either on outside of the self, something that is occurring outside of the self, or something that is occurring within? Because when we heal the energy that we experience within, we heal the relationships outside of ourself in the process. You fix the inside, you get the outside in check, right? And that is something that is continual, and that work never ends. And this is why we also identify that, again, even in relationship, healing is not linear because the work changes. These are the energies that all of that work they had to do to become strong, they're now working to release, because those same standards, those same barriers that got you into the relationship are now the ones that stand in the way of building into the more intimate connection. So we see even now, like, a lot of that energy going into that inner child healing. And this is why we see that for a lot of energy right now, deep within divine union, a lot of that work, a lot of those experiences is allowing for the reshaping of the manifestation goal. Are these energies that are getting rid of the manifestation goal entirely? No. A healthy manifestation is one that opens us, we arrive to it and the possibilities. So I can see even now there's a point of those expansions in relationality to the adaptation of manifestations based upon and built upon the maturation of the relationship itself. Final card for today's spread between our Temperance card and our Four of Cups in its reversal. The Tower card. And I know how you guys feel. I know how you guys feel about the Tower card, okay? But we are not, I want to stress this, okay? I want to stress this. The Tower card is not something to be feared, right? Because the Tower card is working into the concept and the aspect of identifying and recognizing the work that it takes to heal the self, right? That is something that often feels energetically continual. It's something that we continue to put our work in. It is something that we're always working on healing. And often, and this is what we talk about, right? It is coming into the space of embracing our anxiety. It's coming into the space of embracing our fear. This is what we talk about in relationality to shadow work, right? It's not like, I know the word shadow work sounds really, it's not. Like, shadow work is being able to navigate and to face and to work through those hurdles, to work through those difficulties. And often, and this is the thing that happens, right? Like, and I keep on seeing here, this is why it feels so profound for a lot of the energy that's doing this work. For a lot of the energy that we see, the reason that we feel that there's so much of that release that's happening here is for energy in separation. When we are going through the process of healing from trauma, it can feel devastating. And often the first thing we experience is audacity, because often, what did we tell us that happens in trauma-informed spaces? They try to heal us from things that are not to be healed from, right? It's often the space, it's a continuation of understanding. Like, this is a lesson that says that trauma will try to get you to imbibe things about the self that are not true, right? And often in those moments that we heal, it's the recognition point, right? It's not the fact that there isn't something that you need to heal, but it's often the disorientation and recognizing that what another person was asking you to heal wasn't necessarily something that was supportive to the self, but something that was conditional in order to maintain a relationship that did not feel best for the self. And that's why I kept on saying the first thing you will, like, this is the conversation that we said that said the first thing you will feel as you continue to heal is often the audacity, because it's the recognition point between the healing, it's sifting through, right? It's sifting through the work of the difference between something that you're like, yeah, that's something I have to work on. That's a me problem. That's something I got to get better at, versus those modalities or experiences that you say, that was not mine to carry. That was someone else trying to project their trauma on me. That was someone else trying to shift, to move me into something that felt appropriate to them, not to the self, right? Well, and this is why we see that for a lot of the energy and separation, that is like, this is the commitment to the self that says, right, utilizing that discernment that says, I keep on hearing transformation in positive ways, right? The embracing, like, this is the pledge to the self that says only, like, this is like, look, like, I love these two cards in combination, right? Because the Tower with the Temperance says that is the commitment to the self that says moving forward, only change in ways that feel like they're beneficial to the self, letting go of what's not. While for masculine and feminine that are moving deeper into divine union right now, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. This is a lot of that same energy that is doing that work to recognize and identify the fact, and this is the pain point. This is energy that says the trauma, it's never going away. It doesn't. It doesn't go away. You carry it with you. If it could go away, it wouldn't be trauma. Trauma is the pain that sticks. But we talked about it, right? The journey of healing from trauma is not about the release of it. It's how you carry it. It's the ability to find the way to carry it. And so I see even now that this is the energy that, again, understands that the healthy relationship is not the relationship that goes, poof, all the trauma went away. I stopped thinking about it. I don't think about it. It's the fact that you're able to understand the difference between what you hold on to because it hurt you versus what you hold on to because it feeds you and nourishes you and supports you. This brings us to a lot of the energy deep within divine union. And for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, this is what I see in relationality to that expansion point, because I keep on seeing that like there's a lot of this transformation quality and some of that energy deep within, because you'll remember that for a lot of these chariot partnerships that were coming together, that ability of having stability in that way, it feels almost like it's like off to the races, because it's like the energy that's almost saying like we cannot experience, sometimes we cannot predicate how we will feel when we enter a manifestation. And so that's why I keep on seeing that a lot of that tower energy is the understanding of the transformation of the self that feels like I keep on hearing the constant delight and surprise of perpetually arriving. But it's the perpetual arriving to the self that you don't know what you're going to move towards, but you know the direction that it's headed. You understand the direction that feels like it's energetically best for you. And it's interesting because these two cards in combination, even though the Fool card isn't out, I feel like this is a lot of the energy deep within divine union moving from Wheel of Fortune into Fool energy, because these two cards in combination are pretty much the Fool. Bottom of the deck on today's reading, Ace of Wands. Now this is intriguing. I just want to double check. Yes, so yesterday we had the Four of Wands in its upright bottom of the deck. The Ace of Wands in its upright. I keep on, here's the thing. There's something really important. I keep on hearing the message with this bottom of the deck. The difference, the difference between, and this was coming through yesterday, the difference between a pipe dream and a plan is a date, is what I keep on hearing. The difference between a pipe dream and a plan is a date, is what I keep on hearing, because it's the space of understanding the recognition of what it is that we put our force of effort in. And so I feel like the thing about the energy, and I got to tell you, it's all of this, like, it's this double force right now of the double force of like Mercury and Jupiter being in Cancer. It's like, I want to tell you, like, we often hit these moments with Gemini season that can feel like it can feel almost like the paradox of choice, which is like there's so many things happening. It can sometimes feel like you're not sure which direction to head into. So I just want to remind you, if you're feeling like that right now, I want you to go inward, not outward. I want you to start channeling some of those lessons of Cancer season, because this is the message that we often happen. Like, remember, each sign helps us with the next like lesson. So Gemini often comes here to navigate the paradox of choice, right? And often having so many choices, it can feel like they destabilize us because we don't know what direction to go into. But what is Cancer calling us to do? Don't look at what's around you. Look what's within. Like, find the pathwork within, get that down, and then look around you and see what matches that. So if you're feeling a little bit of that right now, if you're feeling a little energetically overwhelmed, if you feel like you're being pulled in a lot of directions, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to meditate. And I want you to try to find that pathwork. And then open your eyes and see, see what feels like it moves you in accordance to it. And I think that a lot of that is also going to help right now as it relates to conversations, both in relationality to relationship, but also just in general with working through a lot of this energetic frustration, right? That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my site. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site, so I would encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone who attended our recent class on the temperance card. What am I saying? Not on the temperance card. Who attended our recent class. What am I saying? Yes, on the temperance card. Sorry, I got confused. On the temperance card, our next class is going to be held on Wednesday, July 16th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Devil card. If you would like to get on the list for a personal reading, if you'd like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. Also, as a monthly subscriber, you will have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library Archive. If you become a founding member, you will have full access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library Archive. That is access to over 15 hours worth of material in an ever-expanding library. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'm going to do my best to give you an update on everything we've studied, but if you wanted to catch up, now is a great time to join those classes because you'd have about 4 classes per week leading into our next class. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions you may have in relation to anything we've learned or have studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you have full access to the library, you'll also have a discounted rate on the full year's worth of readings. You'll also have access to, if you choose to receive one, a one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your impact towards your personal tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber or to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also have access to my Mystic Meditation articles, which give you recaps on what we've been seeing energetically in cards and article format. I just released one about working through this Sagittarius full moon that we just experienced. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my students that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings. You can purchase these per dream or as a series. I would encourage, if you purchase the series, that you start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again